I have a few colleagues and friends who have done their MBAs, and I've seen their progress in their transformation. Given how volatile the world is these days, I think it's important to secure ourselves and learn more about different sectors, different fields, and be an overall all-rounder. So that's what inspired me to do an MBA, essentially. The feedback that MBA Crystal Ball would give to the applicants was very direct, and there's no sugarcoating it. But I like the information to be given straight and raw. What do we know about Gautam? And we go through all the information about, let's say, my life, the key people who have influenced me, my experience, my network, and how you helped me frame that into very strong answers. So I think that was a key point that actually guided me for my applications, and it helped me get into colleges that I wanted. I got invites for both London Business School and ISE, the only two colleges I applied to.
What does it take to get into an elite business school? MBA Crystal Ball is a boutique admissions consulting firm. Each year, we help a select few applicants get into the world's best business schools. Here's one of our success stories to inspire and educate.
Hello from MBA Crystal Ball. Today we have with us a power couple. Shruthi is completing her MBA from IESE, and Gautam recently got into the London Business School and IESE with a GMAT score of 625. Let's hear from both of them about their journeys. Welcome, Gautam and Shruthi. Tell us a little about yourself, your qualifications to begin with.
Sorry, Manish. My name is Gautam. That's how we pronounce the name. I've been based in Dubai for the past 28 years. And I did my Bachelor's of Science in Mechanical Engineering in American University of Sharjah. So I'm a mechanical engineer by trade. I've been working in Reckitt for the past 8 years, and I want to change to do an MBA, actually. Some of my key interests is on sustainability, as well as diversity, inclusion, and generally helping people in terms of giving them exposure and boosting knowledge. So this is some of my passions.
Got it. And if you could expand on your work, with Reckitt, what kind of work did you do? How was the experience like?
Sure, Manish. So I joined Reckitt as an intern through my college, essentially. So it was a program where I was in supply chain, and I was given rotational roles within supply chain. And as of today, basically, or as of recently, I was managing Africa, Middle East, and Pakistan in rolling out advanced tools for demand forecasting. I was also involved in solving top supply issues from our key factories around the world. So my job at Reckitt involves solving these issues and having strong connections and networks to the factory to ensure our supply is met for all these markets that I mentioned.
Super.
And just to add as well,
yeah, please go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead, Manish.
No, please go ahead.
Just to add as well, because you mentioned the experience, I think it's been a great experience in terms of exposure from being from American University of Sharjah, where I was working on theoretical calculations, theoretical knowledge, and moved on to practical applications. So I was dealing with actual numbers and risks that could affect the markets. So on one day, if you go to a store and you see we're out of stock on a certain product like Dettol, we are directly linked to that. So we're affecting people directly. So for me, it was a major change and a great experience. I was also fortunate enough to have a lot of exposure to work closely with VPs, manufacturing and supply directors. So I learned how their leadership skills work, what their thought process is or was. So I think it was a great experience from that angle. I also had the chance to travel to South Africa, Bahrain, Saudi, some of our key markets. So I could be on the ground to realize what the consumer wants. I could also be on the ground to realize how a supply chain network works. And that helped me boost my knowledge and my network also in the countries and the company.
Yeah, I know. You had a pretty good run, pretty rich experience, as you just shared. So, when and why did you start thinking of an MBA? Did you feel the need for it? Just help us through that decision-making process.
Sure, Manish. So I have a few colleagues and friends who have done their MBAs, and I've seen their progress in their transformation from before they started the MBA to after, and how their careers actually expanded and changed. So one of my close friends actually did the LBS Sloan MBA, and he was a supply chain expert just like me. And I could see his transformation, his change, the way his public speaking improved, the way his network changed, as well as his overall knowledge. Just being out of supply chain itself, there was business, finance, marketing. He also works with public sector. So I think his knowledge, his network, and I feel his overall persona improved a lot through doing an MBA. So I was quite inspired by that in terms of why I wanted the MBA. So this happened about 1.5 to 2 years ago. And that's when I started thinking about GMAT and working on the GMAT. Just to add as well, Manish, while I was working on the GMAT and the application, what also reinforced my feelings to do an MBA was also seeing Shruti's transformation and her improvements. I know she's an ISE, obviously, and she's improved a lot in terms of her knowledge related to marketing, finance, accounting. There are some things we don't really work on a daily basis, and from our engineering degrees, we didn't really work on this as well. So I think this knowledge really helps us a lot. And given how volatile the world is these days, I think it's important to secure ourselves and learn more about different sectors, different fields, and be an overall all-rounder. So that's what inspired me to do an MBA, essentially.
Got it. And this is where I'd like to get Shruti in. I mean, I think you've already talked about your application journey. It's been quite popular, on our blog. Just but a quick, this thing. You had a similar background. You kind of also grew up, in that region, worked with Unilever, and made it to IESE with a 650 GMAT score, right? I mean, so help us understand how your IESE experience, and how did you guys interact, took this decision, as a couple, and in general as well.
So yeah, I've spent about 1 year at ESA and have one more to go. I'm currently doing an internship right now in the summer, still in Barcelona. So how the experience has been so far has been like Gautam was saying, like learning about different fields and industries. It has been exactly that. So I came into ESA with a certain post MBA goal in mind, and it has within a year changed. So that's what exposure to like so many industries and courses does to you. And secondly, there's also the people aspect. I have never seen so many people from so many different countries and backgrounds sitting in one room together every day. And ESA is very case-based. So every case is not a professor giving a lecture, but each of us offering our perspective from like one case from a Japanese perspective or from a VC lens versus a investment banking lens or a consulting lens. So it's really nice to see that diversity in the room, and it just opens doors to thinking what other possibilities could exist outside of ESA. Now, going to how we made the decision. So, Gautam was fortunate enough to get the application through get the acceptance with LBS and ESA. And what made us take this choice is that it gives us maximum exposure to like two networks, two different styles of learning, two countries. And it also gives me the perks of visiting London every now and then because it's a nice city to visit and have that exposure too. So I think that's like talking about how volatile the world is, etc. It also makes sense to spread that risk and hedge your bets instead of two people going to the same university. Of course, I would have loved it if we were both at ESA. Like it would be a great experience to explore a new city together. But I think this is the more practical way to approach it.
Right. I'd like to take you like 2 years back, right, when you were applying. So I mean, did you guys at that point know that both of you would be applying? Was this planned? How did this evolve, the journey itself for both of you?
Well, our application journey started more than 2 years ago, and Gautam, you
Right.
can also add to this answer. But I never intended to do an MBA. It was Gautam's plan to do an MBA for himself, like more of a thought as he was seeing his colleagues and friends. He would always think that, oh, maybe an MBA would be a good add to my CV. But it was never like a serious thought or a serious plan. Um, then I started thinking about my career, and I kind of got this itch to pivot to tech because at work at Unilever, I love my job and the kind of people I was working with and the kind of challenges we were solving. But I always found myself gravitate towards finding tech solutions for our problems and building tech solutions with our tech teams. So and then when the company went through a restructure, I decided this is the time to make that change formally. So I started like aggressively studying for the GMAT and doing my applications. It was more of a timing thing than anything else, but it was always going to happen because I wanted to pivot my career. And once I got into the MBA grind, etc., I think that further solidified Gautam's drive to like get one himself.
Right. Gautam, you'd like to add any things to that?
No, I think the decision for Shruti was quite straightforward. When she got the ISE offer, she instantly liked the college, and I think that was the only college in Europe she applied for, the key college. So I think it was a great decision, and it linked to what she wants as well. And the college has great virtues and values that links to Shruti's personality as well. I think linked to my choice as well. Obviously, I mean, people might wonder, saying, okay, a couple go for MBA at the same time, the risk is quite high. There's no income at the same time. So this is obviously hedged into our decision. And but we really believe in the college, and also we believe in ourselves as importantly, and really think this will be something I can learn quite well, especially to the people that we have met, the interactions we've had to the college, and the alumni from the college as well. As Shruti mentioned, I mean, I did want to go for MBA for the past maybe 1 to 2 years, and luckily Shruti got in before me. But yeah, I'm happy to join a year later, and we both can actually meet also in Europe. So I think the decision makes sense from that angle. Um, just to add as well, I mean, I think the ESA network is fantastic, but we also have a very good LBS network also. So I'll not only be able to have interaction with the ESA network through Shruti, but she can also have interaction of the LBS network through me. So I think that way it kind of spreads, our network a bit better. So this is a key part in terms of our decision making also. And like she said, I mean, I would have loved to also stay in Barcelona with her. Would have been fantastic also. But I think this was more of a practical, pedantic decision that we took that will help both of
Right.
us in the long run.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. And I'm sure it will help people in similar situations. But going to your GMAT journey, Gautam, how was that? And I think you also decided to start working applications in parallel. Walk us through on how that evolved.
No, for sure. I think GMAT was one of the tough hurdles in terms of getting the application through successfully. In fact, I just updated my latest GMAT score after the application was done. Yeah, so they allowed me to have a grace period of about a couple of weeks and update the GMAT score. So just to take a step back, I think my initial score was about 580 in GMAT Classic. It then improved to about 650, and then lastly it went to 680. So I think it was a very difficult task. At first, I expected this to be more of a, let's say, an IQ-based test where, okay, if you get a bad score, you're not very smart. But the reality is that I feel it's more of a discipline-based test. So it shows how good you are in terms of fixing your mistakes, understanding your errors, and basically moving forward, and in a very disciplined way. Yeah, and I think it's the only best way to go through in terms of studying and getting good score is by practicing on a disciplined basis every day. And you have English, you have math, as well as integrated reasoning. So I think it was quite tricky, and it depends in terms of the person's, or let's say the test taker's background, school background. What I've observed is that those who have done the CBSE systems, or let's say the Indian syllabus, found the GMAT a bit easier compared to me, who have done the British syllabus in my education. So I think math was my key weakness point, and I decided to go for Enzo Prep, which actually focused to improve my math skills quite well. So that was the extra resource that I took in terms of focusing my GMAT. Obviously, I took the original preps from the online, let's say from the online dashboard, the practice tests, as well as the data. But I think Enzo Prep really helped elevate my mathematical skills, which improved my score from 580 to about 680. So yeah, that's my take on the GMAT.
Right, right. And Shruti, I'd like to also hear from you. I mean, you also had a bit of a tough journey with GMAT. Were you also kind of, mentoring, or, how was your interaction with Gautam? What did you share about your journey with Gautam?
So my GMAT journey seems like over a lifetime ago.
I know.
But what I remember from it is it's not about the math or the exam itself, it's about your mindset. So, like what Gautam was saying, I studied fully CBSE. So, but it was still a struggle for me because I had this weird mindset that if the test is not going well, then somehow, I'm not capable of doing an MBA, or maybe I shouldn't go down that path and things like that. But the thing is, if you have not been a test taker for so many number of years, you're going to an office, that test taking mentality takes a bit of it's like working out, but much harder. So you have to get into the rhythm of things. And second, because that stresses you out so much while you take the test and you put pressure on yourself, you end up making very silly mistakes. And that was my problem. So my journey also started like a 600 to a 650 to a 680. And finally, I was able to cross that 700 hurdle to a 710. And again, I didn't want to write the test the fourth time. Gautam pushed me and said, if you maybe take it once, you can cross 700, just do it for yourself. So I did that. I also submitted my score a month after the application deadline, just because I wanted to like cushion myself. And that helped a lot because I could have got to the 680, but I was able to secure a scholarship with the 710. So I think like if you can and if you have time to push yourself on the GMAT, do it because it might you'll get in, but a scholarship is always nice to have. But my main thing was the mindset shift. And there's this YouTube channel called GMAT Ninja that really helped with that. So they like it's a free channel. You get like 14 minutes to 1 hour videos. And if you just sit there and just the way they explain each question is they take you through the rationale and the thought process and how to think about it. In some cases, they explain it more than one way. And they group the questions in terms of the difficulty and like what kind of questions you can expect. So I found that channel so useful and it helped me to just take a deep breath and calm down when I approached each question. And it helped me relax and say, like, this is not the end of the world, it's just a test. And that mindset shift, thankfully, I found the channel on time. So it took me a month to kind of change that mindset, and it really helped in that last exam.
Right.
Just to
Understood.
add as well, I mean,
Mhm.
I think it's also about quality and not quantity, right? So one thing that Shruti actually helped me out and guided me on is having a proper error log. So you know what kind of mistake you made, what category the mistake was, and what kind of difficulty for those particular questions. And once, like I said, once you identify the mistakes and work on that, then you'll be able to improve your scores. So instead of munching down like hundreds of questions, it's more of doing like 10, 20 questions and making sure you fix all your mistakes. So I think it's a lot about the quality.
Sure,
And
sure.
on top of that, there is also a
Mhm.
thing called too much practice that some people may be doing. And like you can't gym more than 2.5, 3 hours a day for like a regular person. So why would you do like 80 to 100 questions in one day, right? So I set a limit for myself. I wouldn't do more than 40 questions within a day and like not tire brain out. If I'm taking a full test, then the previous day I would just do very like simple to medium and like maybe 20 to 30 questions just so that I have that breathing room. So I think those are things that people miss out to like take a deep breath, to like limit the amount of practice and the quality of practice that you're doing. So if you have those guiding lines, then I think you should be fine.
Perfect. Yeah, they are very useful tips. Now Gautam, yeah, sorry, Shruti, you had already worked with us, and Gautam, you knew that. But even then, how did you kind of decide what was your, kind of decision-making process when you decide to work with MBA Crystal Ball?
So this question's for me, yeah, just to be clear.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, fine, fine. I think Manish, I had some discussions with other companies also to get their take on my profile, what the advice was, and everything. And I also had a direct conversation with you. And what I found out was the other companies are very persistent in getting their service, through them, getting my service through them essentially, and working with them. They were following up very closely. They were marketing very hard. So I found that very odd. Essentially, I didn't hear too many personal feedback about these companies. But when I had a conversation with you, I had a conversation with Shruti, what I realized is that the feedback that MBA Crystal Ball would give to the applicants was very direct, and there's no sugarcoating it. I understand some people might like sugarcoating, but it depends on each person. But I like the information to be given straight and raw. So that was basically the feedback I got about MBA Crystal Ball. I think the conversation I had about you, where you took me through the process in terms of, let's say, what do we know about Gautam, and we go through all the information about, let's say, my life, the key people who have influenced me, my experience, my network, and how you helped me frame that into very strong answers. I think those are the key points which actually convinced me to go ahead with MBA Crystal Ball. So I think that was a key point that actually guided me for my applications, and it helped me get into colleges that I wanted. So yeah, those were my decisions.
Right. And switching gears here a bit, Shruti, if you could also help us understand any highlights, while you've given, obviously it's been very transformative, the experience. Any particular course that stands out or anything, that you'd like to talk about from your experience so far?
So two things, while there are many. The first one is that ESA puts you in a team of either 9 or 10 people. And throughout the first year, you have to work with that team on all your projects, group assignments. Sometimes your feedback from each other is also considered in your evaluation in the end. So that teamwork was, I think it helped a lot in terms of getting to know people, that you wouldn't usually interact with. And also just not losing that sense of teamwork between your work and your next job after the MBA. So the teamwork has been great. And even though the first year is over, we're all still in touch. Like we're now like a group of friends who wouldn't have been a group unless it wasn't for ESA. The second thing, there was one course called, in the first term, called Analysis of Business Problems. I found that one very interesting because it's, as the name says, you have a business problem, business burning cash or like losing money, or they've come to a standstill, or they're not able to launch a new product or pivot, or something is there. And you just read a case, and in class, you start discussing like what could be the issue. Sometimes the discussion takes this logical turn of, okay, they're spending too much money in this area that's not giving them the right responses, etc. But sometimes it gets so interesting to see that certain people will come with a perspective that one person or one employee in this company is stealing money. Or you start looking at a problem from like non-regular, or a suspicious angle, which it's not the right thing to do all the time. But at least you remember to look at a problem from every angle possible, which only happens because you have 70 people from like so many countries and backgrounds. So that was our first introduction to discussing business problems and how to solve them with this case mindset and like this diverse profile that we have in the class. And it was a great introduction to what the rest of the MBA is going to have for us.
Right, right. Thanks for sharing that. And yeah, I think you're completing your or doing your summer internship currently. So if you could also share how does that process work? Because I mean that's something that not many people know before entering the school. How does that process work? How did you go about it? Any tips, suggestions on that?
Sure. So the internship process is quite long and tedious. It starts the day you join ESA. Your orientation week has the internship recruitment calendars there for you, for all students to see. So it happens in cycles. So depend on where you want to intern. If it's consulting, it starts at a certain time, investment banking at a certain time, but other like unstructured recruitment that we call it here, where the a role pops up if it is available within a firm, or you do it through networking and not like a formal interview and application process. All that happens like later on and closer to the summer, as and when a need arises in a company. So for consulting and financial sectors, it's more structured. You have your CV reviewed by the career center here. They give you mock interviews, and you have mandatory mocks to do here at ASA. So your skills are like polished before you start going out there. You do mocks with your peers. You have professional clubs, the tech club, the finance club, fintech club, consulting club. All these clubs are run by second years in collaboration with the Career Development Center, and they prepare you to do CV reviews, to do mocks with each other, specifically in consulting, where you have to practice casing so often. You're also given resources for those people. So I got into one of the consulting companies, first and second round interviews. So whoever gets into round one, they get like access to certain interview packs from the company themselves to do some basic quizzing and like casing, etc. So it depends on what sector you're looking at. The way I approached it is I wanted to try out consulting first and see if that is for me, or if I get through there. That did not work out for me so well, but also I was more focused on the tech side of things to kind of, go through the career treks with the tech club. And like, there's a much bigger process on like making warm intros to different companies where you want to work, creating a whole list of how you want to approach and structure your internship. And also there's a lot of hand holding by the second years who volunteer their time and like take us through this because they have just finished that process. So it depends on where you want to reach, and there is a process and there are people there to help you out with each of that. ASA has a great alumni network. So anytime you reach out on LinkedIn to a company where you want to work, there is an alumni person who will reply to you. Maybe they'll take a week or so, but you will get a response and you will get that feedback and hand holding.
Right. Excellent. So, Gautam, you know what's ahead of you. But before going there, I mean, tell us how was your interview experience when you were interviewing with these schools? Where did you interview? And again, anything that kind of you remember from any of these experiences that you'd like to share.
Sure, Manish. So I got the interview invites for both London Business School and ISE, the only two colleges I applied to. So for ISE, there were two processes for the interview. The first one was an assessment day, and that's where you work in groups to actually formulate answers to questions that the college asks you. So there's a presentation given by a professor by the college, And all those who are in round one attend that particular round or that particular session. We then move on to random groups, and we then develop answers together in terms of understanding what the professor was asking and making a very clear answer. There would be one alumna who would be attending that particular group, and she or he would not say anything. They would only observe and make their choices or recommendation in terms of who should go from round one to round two. So luckily I got through round one, which was assessment day for ISC. Then round two was a face-to-face interview with somebody based in Dubai. So for these colleges, what I observed is that face-to-face interview is very much preferred, and even I would prefer that technically. So it was an interview with somebody who was working in the IFC, which is a finance sector in Dubai. It was a very comparatively casual interview. We discussed more about my personality, what I like, a bit about my experience, and also what sets me apart from different candidates to ISC. What I observed is that they're looking for more of the exposure that I've received through my college, through my work, and what is my international experience. Given that the people who join ISC are all from different backgrounds, so they want to make sure that I can work in a team very effectively. So that is what I observed from the session in round two. So I think the round two interview went quite well, and I got the acceptance, luckily. Jumping over to LBS, it was a direct interview after getting through the application. It was only one round, and that was with an alumni based in Dubai also. He was a consultant. So this was a bit more of I would say comparatively intense interview if you compare to ISE, where he directly asked in terms of what is my experience, what would I do in certain situations, and basically how would I operate in a team. So it was a bit more challenging, but I was up for the challenge, and I think it was a decent session. What was interesting with the LBS interview was that there was also a case study where he gave a situation, a scenario, and asked me to develop a very clear answer with logical reasoning on why my answer must be true. And I had to justify it as well. And he also asked some questions relating to that. And luckily, I managed to defend my case quite well. So that was the round for LBS. And then after a few months, I got the acceptance for that as well. So overall, I think the interviews were both quite good. I think ISC is a bit more about personality, a bit more casual. LBS is a bit more intense, and a bit more preparation is required, at least from my end.
Right. Great. Awesome. On a closing note, Shruti, anything that you would like to share, about people who are applying in general and, specifically to ISC, any suggestions or tips that you might have?
Tips or suggestions? I mean, main thing is to get to know the college more and speak to the people within the university. The more things you know outside of the website or their brochure, the better. And ESA specifically, like all of us will reply. We have a mentoring, structured mentoring kind of thing that we do here, where like Indians or different regions can connect with applicants from the same region so that we can help them out with the process and give them like inside info. And that continues into their onboarding if they actually make the move to Barcelona. So the biggest tip is to reach out to us because ESA is quite connected that way. And we like to give it back since we've gotten so much help from our alumni in second years. So reaching out is the best thing you can do.
Perfect. Gautam, anything you'd like to add, in terms of closing thoughts on what should applicants look at, or, sort of something that you missed out?
Oh, for sure. I think besides what Shruti mentioned, I think it's important to look through basically what your experience has been for the past couple of years, what sets you apart, what's unique about you. And I think that's where the conversation with you helped quite well, because there were certain things that I felt was not very important. And you woke me up and said, hey, Gautam, it is important. And we luckily added that in my application. So my point is, certain things that may not appear to be very important could be a very key part to your life story, and will be very important for your application. So things that basically have shaped you, that is leading to what you're doing right now today and why you want to go for the MBA. Things about extracurricular activities as well as international experience. I think these are super important for the applications. I also think having a good GMAT score can help in terms of scholarships, and it'll also help to a certain extent in terms of getting through the application. But to add, I mean, the colleges look at the entire profile as opposed to just GMAT score. So I think these are a few things that I would advise to any applicants.
Amazing. These are very helpful. Thanks both of you for sparing the time. All the best, Gautam, for the new journey to continue. And I hope you guys
Thanks, Manish.
also get time to travel Europe as much as possible.
For sure. That's a plan.
All right.
Thank you so much, Manish.
Take care.
Thanks, Manish.
We hope you found this interview helpful. At MBA Crystal Ball, we've helped many applicants get into the elite business schools, often with scholarships. Reach out if you're looking for professional help with your applications. Good luck.